Not even 1 week into us being married, and things were already going south for the camper. On our first really long haul trip of our traveling, it was our first 8 hour car ride. We were heading up to Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and we ran into some pretty unfortunate road events. We had not one, but two tire blowouts on the way up, and that caused quite an issue. Seeing as we only had a single spare tire. So today we're going to tell you guys a little bit about what those two tire blowouts look like, what the process of getting those fixed the day of, and then the insurance claims that followed that. That way you all, if you're going to unfortunately experience that in the future, you can kind of see what that process looks like.
Yeah, so we were about an hour and a half into our trip, and we blew the left driver's side tire on our camper. We definitely felt it when it happened, and we were like, oh my god, what's going on? Pulled over. We, did we call it roadside assistance?
We did. So we called roadside assistance, but after being on hold for 2 or 3 minutes, I was like, you know what? It's not even worth having to drag them out here. We have a spare. I have all of the tools. So might as well just hop out, get it taken care of.
Yeah, so Austin took care of it. I stayed in the car with the dogs, and we were like, okay, we'll be fine. We'll just keep traveling. And it was maybe a 45 minute to an hour delay at that point. But, we were only an hour and a half into our 8-hour trip.
Yeah.
And hindsight is so funny because I recorded what you'll see is the next video while I was waiting on Austin to change the tire and make sure everything was set. So yeah, that was pretty funny. We finally got on the road about 11 o'clock or so. It is now 1:37, and we blew our first tire, which is not any fun at all, but did happen. Definitely was scary. Definitely knew it happened, and it wasn't as scary as we necessarily thought. Also, this is our first week as a married couple, so always an adventure, I guess.
Pretty comical how we thought that might be the worst thing that was going to happen during the day. So fortunately, the tire that blew out first was on the roadside, which in my opinion is easier to change. You're able to pull off into the shoulder. We had a good area to do it in, and it was the first time I had to change a tire on the camper. But honestly, it didn't take too long. Like Tara said, like maybe 45 minutes.
Once we got our spare tire on our camper, we went ahead and made a stop at the Love's Travel Stop on our way to our destination, and we checked everything out. We were like, okay, everything else looks good. I'm pretty sure we checked tire pressure in all of our tires, including our truck tires, to make sure everything was fine.
Yeah, so when we stopped, made sure to check for any debris damage. I wasn't sure what caused the first blowout, so I checked for, had we ran over nails, had we ran over any glass that damaged the tires, and all of them looked good. Tire pressure was just a little underinflated, so they were rated for 65 psi. I think they were at like 62, which we would come to find out later was a contributing factor to the reason we had the blowouts.
Yes. So after that stop, we got back on the road, traveled another 63 miles, or about an hour and 10 minutes, and another tire popped.
Yeah, this time it was the rear tire, so the rear axle on the passenger side of the camper. So both times it was on that rear axle, so I'm going to guess there's just more weight on that, more prone to failure for the way that our camper's configured. And that one was a lot worse.
That was a lot worse. So at that time it was about 3:50 in the afternoon, and we didn't have a spare because we already had we had a spare, we already were using it. So then we're like, okay, what are we going to do? We call our emergency roadside services.
Yep.
they're like, okay, and they kind of gave us the runaround of like, oh, look, it's going to be a wait, this sort of thing. I think we waited for maybe...
probably 30 or 40 minutes.
Yeah, 30 or 40 minutes, and we kept calling back, and we're like, okay, is there anyone... Because no one was picking up our emergency roadside service.
Yeah, there was nobody available to even get something scheduled, so we were kind of sitting in this limbo on the side of the road of, is there anybody that's able to come out there to help us? And having talked to the roadside assistance rep, who was honestly doing the best they could, there was nobody around that did tire service. So there was nobody that was going to be able to bring out a tire for us to put on, which is understandable. It's a pretty uncommon service to have. But it meant that ultimately there was going to be nothing we could do other than having the camper put onto a flatbed and towed away to a nearby tire shop or a RV place. And we decided that was going to take too long, and it was going to make us delay our trip by at least a day, if not multiple days.
We have blown through 2 tires today. We've gone the equivalent of what, like 2 hours in the last 6?
Yeah, we've driven for maybe 2 hours in the last 6 hours.
We've made 2 1-hour stops, and I think we are on the road for maybe an hour, and now we've blown a second tire.
Yep.
We don't obviously have a spare for that one. This is 2 days into marriage.
Yeah, so got
That's
married
kind of terrifying.
2 days ago. This is something, the cliche, like nobody would believe this kind of nonsense. Like, you tell somebody, oh, like, yeah, we got married and then we decided to get back on the road, and you blow 2 tires on the same day. Yeah, things could be worse.
We have snacks.
We do. We just ate lunch not all that long ago.
Yeah.
So, we'll see how... I'm actually kind of curious of how they tow a 38-foot long camper with a blown tire. Because they're going to have to put that on a flatbed, because obviously you can't tow it, otherwise I would just, pull it.
So what we decided to do was we got on our phones, called every tire shop that we could find, and tried to see if they had a single tire or possibly 2 tires that would match the ones that we had in our camper. We ended up going to Lafayette, Indiana, which is about an hour drive away. So we had to unhook from our camper on the side of the highway, leave our precious baby there with all of our belongings, and drive an hour in as quickly as possible because stores were closing. As we said, it was 3:50 or so when the first tire popped, so most stores were closing at 5. We had waited 30 to 45 minutes, so it was 4:30 at the point that we were trying to start driving in. So
so before we were able to even depart, so we had to disconnect. Before I disconnected, I had to get the more recently blown out tire off of the camper so I could take both rims with 2 blown out tires to a tire shop so that they could put on 2 new tires. We decided that, having 2 blowouts in one day probably meant we were likely going to have another. So I didn't want to just get 1 tire fixed and then us be in the exact same situation. But instead of it being 5 o'clock on a Monday, being, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, which is about when we got back to the camper.
Yeah, so after we went into Lafayette, got both tires, we grabbed dinner, headed back. It was completely dark on the side of the highway as cars were breezing by us. And that was not fun. We were luckily on not the car side, but on the shoulder, so we were able to get the new tire on.
Yeah, we were very fortunate that they blew out in the way they did. The first one blowing out on the driver's side was nice because it was easier to just kind of pull off to the side of the road during the day. People could see me, our hazards were on. I felt pretty safe getting it on and off. And then the second blowout was at night, and it was on the passenger side, so off of the road, farther away, and it was a lot safer for me to have to change that. Like we said, we disconnected, so the first thing that we did when we got back to the camper was back up to it and get it hooked up just enough so that we could get the hazards on the camper. And it's at this point that I would tell everybody who's watching this, or anybody who does any sort of traveling, whether that's with the camper or not, have a roadside emergency kit. Fortunately, we had planned ahead. We had one, and that included having the, like, not necessarily cones, but kind of the collapsible fluorescent kind of markers that you will see like a semi use to mark off that they're stalled on the side of the road or something like that. So that definitely made me feel a lot safer having those out there. It was a lot more visible, and especially since the camper didn't have the hazards on the entire time we were gone, that was something that, you know, probably prevented somebody from hitting it, worst case scenario.
Yeah. After we got all hooked up and got the tire changed and that sort of thing, we needed a place to stay because at that point it was about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. So we hobbled our way to a campground that was about 20 to 30 minutes away that we had called previously on our way to pick up the tire and see if they had any availability, and we were able to stay the night there. And then from there, we drove up to Wisconsin, where we were going to be staying for that week, and got all 4 new tires.
At the tire shop in Lafayette, Indiana, we kind of had a chance to talk with the tire techs. They were able to kind of look at, you know, the remains of the tires. There wasn't a lot left, unfortunately. But based off of their recommendation, they thought that while the tires looked good, the dealership that we got from checked them. Everything looked fine. I inspected them and they looked fine. No signs of dry rot, no signs of heavy sun damage or anything like that. The only thing was that the previous owner had left it on low tire pressure basically over a winter and summer period, so almost a year. And we think that that ended up doing quite a bit of damage to the tires. So whenever we brought them back up to the proper tire pressure or near it, like I said, it was 62 out of 65 psi. And we think that that extra pressure plus the weight of the camper itself, that's what was causing them to blow out. So getting all 4 replaced was key. But something else we did was also we went from a 8-ply to a 10-ply tire. And that was a huge difference. So one thing that we wanted to point out, and we're kind of disappointed in Forest River for, is the tires that were put onto the camper. If you take the gross vehicle weight, so the maximum weight that the camper can weigh, and you compare that to the maximum load rating of the tires, it's overloaded. If you subtract about 1,000 pounds off of the gross vehicle weight and add it to the tongue weight, so those tires aren't really carrying that weight, you've got like a 400 pound difference between the tire rating and what the camper can weigh. To me, that doesn't seem very safe. That seems like well, technically it meets the guidelines, but realistically they should have had beefier tires on it from the start. So I think that, you know, would that have prevented our tires from blowing out? It's hard to tell because the previous owner left it on low tire pressure. Would it have prevented somebody else's tires from blowing out? Possibly. And that's something that, you know, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me of why skip on that one part.
Yeah, it was definitely an expensive week as far as that goes with buying. We ended up buying 6 tires at that point, between the 2 and then the 4 that we got to replace all of them. So, do check your tire ratings, especially before going on a long adventure, or even possibly while you're purchasing your camper. That might be something that if you're buying a used camper, or maybe you're buying a new camper, you can say, hey, I don't think those are as well rated as you're saying, or, hey, I'm actually going to need to replace the tire, so can we get a little money hacked off, like the used price kind of thing.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend if you're looking at buying used, especially something that is a little older. I mean, ours was about 2 years old at the time of purchase. So if you're looking at buying something that's older than that, still has the original factory tires on it, I would recommend just replacing them. If you're looking at going full time, you're going to be driving a lot, you're going to be putting a lot of miles onto it, there is absolutely no reason not to get 4 new tires if you have a dual axle camper and putting a new spare on it. It is so worth the investment for safety, for just the inconvenience of having to stop whenever you're trying to get to your destination. So definitely something to consider when you're looking at buying. You definitely want to check to make sure that the tires are in good shape, and if they're questionable, just pull the trigger, get new ones.
Yes, yes. So after our trip to Wisconsin, we came back through to Indiana. We talked with our insurance agency, and we had them do an assessment on our camper, and then we also had to take it in to a local RV repair shop in the area, and they also did an estimate on it. And that's kind of how we got the ball rolling on doing the repairs, because our J-wrap on our camper was severely damaged from both the pops on each side.
Like you've seen throughout this video, you can see the damage on both sides of the camper. So each blowout did quite a bit of damage to the J-wrap, that kind of sheet metal aesthetic piece that goes at the bottom that helps with aerodynamics and to keep debris out from underneath the camper. I'm sure it has some other functions. I'm sure if you know what else it does, leave a comment down below. But the primary thing that it did was just like fold it in half and knocked sheet metal screws out. It was pretty bad. So those estimates from the insurance company, obviously the insurance company is going to give you an initial estimate that is far below what the actual cost to repair is. I believe our initial insurance estimate was like $1,100.
Yeah.
Which just, whenever I told the RV repair shop that we used how much they had estimated, they went, "Yep, that should cover maybe parts."
That did not
did
even
not
cover parts.
So
maybe screws.
So we ended up having to go ahead and get it into the shop so that they could get a proper estimate on it. They ended up working directly with our insurance. Fortunately, that was a large RV shop in the area. They pretty often work with our insurance agent, so they were having things move pretty well. So they were able to go ahead and get parts on order for us. That was back in about November when we had them get those ordered. And the initial deposit on that was about $1,000, so insurance had basically covered that. So we didn't have anything out of pocket at that point, so we weren't out any money until a couple months later.
We continued traveling while we were waiting for our parts to come in, and then we were finished traveling, and we're gonna head up towards Indiana for the holiday season. So while we were up there, we went ahead and we're going to get our camper repaired. So we had them winterize, we dropped it off, we had them winterize it because of how cold the temperatures were. And if we were down south, where we had originally planned to spend the winter, we wouldn't have had to winterize it. I'm not a huge fan of the winter, if you can't tell. Not the cold winter. So after we dropped it off, we were waiting for parts to come in and so that they could start the repairs. Luckily, parts came in at probably
about a month early.
3 to 4 weeks early, which is great. They got it on right away. We're able to fix it. We also at that time got our tongue jack replaced because we were having issues with it not going down. When there wasn't pressure on it. It's an odd issue. Yeah. But it takes forever. Like it makes leaving and coming with your camper a lot more difficult to do it manually.
Yeah, so we use the opportunity of the camper having to be in the shop anyways as an opportunity to get a couple other things fixed. The tongue jack being the primary one. If any of you have experienced problems with your tongue jack, you know that it can be a massive pain. For us to get it off the truck hitch, you had to get out the bottle jack, you had to get everything like different leveling blocks set up, and just it's not worth the hassle. So we got a new one put on because having them diagnose the issue would have cost us more than just getting a new one. So all in all, we were able to get new J-wrap installed. They were able to, check all the seals, make sure that, we weren't having any water leaks or anything like that from the blowout damage. And they were able to get everything, looking really good. So some of the after photos you'll see here, you can really see the difference. Honestly, where the new J-wrap is installed probably looks better than where some of the old stuff is still at. But it matches really well. They did a great job of getting it repaired. The total cost without insurance would have been about $3,300. So not a cheap thing to have happen.
No, not at all. So, and even though we did have insurance, we did incur quite a few costs, and I'm going to go over these costs really quick. So, 2 tires in Lafayette. That was the first 2 tires that we bought in this whole series. So, those were $221.14. We bought 4 new tires in Wisconsin when we were up there, and those are the 10-ply tires that are doing us great. And those were $638.80. We had to stay 1 night in Indiana at a campground, even though we had a campground
already paid for in Fond du Lac.
And that one was $34 for that night. We had to do our insurance deposit.
Our deductible.
Our insurance deductible. You can tell I'm not a real adult because I have no idea what this is. Insurance deductible, which was $500.
Yep.
And then we had our camper tongue jack replaced, which has nothing to do with it, but we had it done. So that was another $259.74. And then we had to pay out of pocket for winterization, but we went ahead and were able to
expense that to insurance,
which was $149.99.
Yeah. So with insurance, I would say honestly the process was pretty straightforward. There were some other things that we thought were damaged from the blowouts, our awning being one of them, and ultimately they said that they couldn't relate the two, so we said that's fine, we won't pursue it. But they did a great job of being on top of the claims, keeping us informed of what was going on, and working with the shop that we were having the camper in at. For those of you that may be in the Indiana region or in the Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky tri-state region, I would say that we went to Bassen's American RV. Overall, we had a pretty positive experience. We would say that there was definitely some communication issues where I would talk to somebody, be told one thing, show up, and then there'd be some confusion until the person I talked to kind of came up and said, yeah, I told them this. Whether that was on how many days it was going to take to get an estimate done on the damage, or work orders not getting completed before we go to pick it up. So ultimately they got everything done the way that we wanted it to. The quality of the work was impeccable. I would recommend them. I would just say be prepared to kind of stay on top of things, make sure that you're communicating to them exactly what you want, and making sure that they follow through on it. But overall, both insurance and Bassen's American RV did a great job of getting things resolved. We are back in our camper, and we are back on the road.
Yes.
And so excited to get farther south for a little bit here, to kind of get out of the winter weather, we'll say.
No more snow.
Hopefully.
Gosh, I hope not.
If it snows in southern New Mexico, we've got problems.
Yeah. The only snow I want is a snow cone. Just kidding.
Just a couple tips and things that I would tell everybody to be looking at is be prepared for roadside emergencies. If you're a full-timer, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's when.
And that's what everyone has told us who has RV and campered, even not even just full-timers, just people who do it on the weekends. So we knew it was going to happen.
Yeah. Have your roadside emergency kit, have a fire extinguisher, have, some water, some non-perishable food. Have that stuff ready to go because you don't know what's going to happen. If you're driving through the desert, you're going to want water whenever you're waiting. You may not have cell reception to have somebody come in. Something that, my parents always told me is have the tools to fix your own stuff, even if you don't know how to use them, because, somebody might, pull up and be more than willing to help you, but they don't have the tools to fix your stuff. So at the very least, know the tools that you need. If you don't know how to use them, get a printout of how to use them, keep it with you, because worst case scenario, you can work through the problem as you're in it. So that being said, take some time, learn your rig. Make sure that if you're looking at purchasing it, make sure you calculate that into, the stuff that you're going to need to buy. Having the proper lug wrench, having, proper set of sockets and ratchets, make sure that you've got what you need to take a tire off, put a new one on, make sure you have the jack stands, just make sure you have it.
Yes, it was quite a process before we even started Before we even got our truck, figuring out exactly what we were going to need in our camper or in our truck for emergencies, and all of those situations that may or may not happen, as far as that goes. And we were ordering stuff on Amazon and going to Harbor Freight and all those places.
Yeah.
Trying to get everything prepped for when we had a situation like this. And luckily, ours wasn't too severe.
Yeah. Thank you all again for watching today. If you want more content like this, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. If you want to be notified anytime that we release a new video, go ahead and hit the bell icon. You can follow us at Two Techie Travelers on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Pinterest, and Twitter. You can also find our website, twotechietravelers.com. Again, thank you everybody, and we hope you have a great day.